So guys, and you're all wondering, I know what you're all thinking, if only chapter 2 could be read to us right now. Well, it can and it will. In this live stream, 2 in 1 day. I know, I'm spoiling you guys. Chapter 2 coming now. The Doctor, Rose and Gracious made their way to the Via Lata, passing by Transium's column itself, which pierced the sky with its carved tails of Trident's victory over the Dacians. It looked even more impressive close up. Marvel panels spiraling away from the sort of temple thing at the bottom. That's got Transium's ashes in it, Doctor said. The nearby Rose had to crane her neck right back to see the Emperor's statue standing on top for 100 feet above her. There was a viewing platform at the top of the column, and she could see the Doctor just inching to climb up to it, but Gracious was a man on a mission, so they were forced to hurry on too. Eventually they came to a place named by the cafe owner, an apartment in a block that was not the most spurious of locations, but was a great deal better than the area which they had first arrived. Really, it wasn't all that different from the Powell estate. Several blocks of apartments were built around the courtyard, and there were even some shops on the ground floor, but selling olive oil and kitchenware rather than cigarettes and Chinese food. They climbed up the stairs to the apartment in question, where the Doctor took the lead and knocked on the door. They climbed up the stairs. I thought I'll do some actions in this stream, guys. Make this one a bit different. The Doctor took the lead, and the moment it opened slightly, and a narrow-eyed man in a grub tunic peered out at them. Well, what do you want? Doctor smiled at them. Guys, by the way, do you like the voices or go back to no voices? That's the question. Chapter 2 gets the voices because you guys deserve them. Doctor smiled at him. Well, we'd like to see the young lady who lives here, you know, the prophet. Astrologer. The man's demeanour changed instantly. Suddenly he was obsessed gazing at them as he pushed the door wide open and stood back to let them in. Thank you. My pleasure, gentlemen and lady. My very great pleasure. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Boblius, and you shall see the lady, the reader of the stars, the interpreter of the planets. She who knows what's to come, for only the smallest of fees you shall see her. Cross her plan with silver, muttered Rose. Nothing changes. She expected Gracious to haggle, as the son mentioned, but he was obviously too anxious about his son to quabble over money and give the man a handful of coins for a protest. The scruffy man led the way into a back room, where someone was sitting, hurled in a corner. Visitors for you, Finzinessa, she said, rubbing his hands aggressively in the manner of someone who'd got a good bargain. Tell him what you want to know. The figure looked up, and Rose was taken back. She successfully explained a fairground gypsy type, elderly, rosy-cheeked, a knowing smile on her face as she told of dark strangers and voyages across the sea, but she was just a girl. A thin, dark-skinned girl with haunted eyes. Yes, master? Rose and the Doctor, looking quizzical. She's a slave, he mouthed back silently. Gracious sat down in front of the girl. You must tell me where to find my son, he implored. I can give you his time and place of birth. All you need to know. The girl looked scared. Answer the gentleman, Vanessa, said the owner, his grin like a wolf's. In a soft voice, she began to ask Gracious questions about Obtuse, and then reached out for a piece of parchment. Piece of parchment. Christmas gift from Petey Boo. They reached out for a piece and then began to work out calculations. And you're thinking, guys, that walk was worth that little joke of me pulling out a calculator. They didn't mean much to Rose. She was never that keen on Miles at the best of times. Me and her too. Me and her both. She let alone trying to understand it's upside down, but she knows the doctor's intention had been grabbed. He stared at her fingers, a sort of frozen way that for a few moments before shaking his head, turning back to Gracious. Gracious was looking eager, expectant. Rose felt sorry for him, but not just because of his son, because he was so desperate that he'd been driven to ridiculous measures like this. The girl might seem nice enough, not the type to take advantage, but Rose couldn't say the same for her owner, preying on the weak and wretched. That was obviously the scheme here, as if working out where a few stars were at the time of someone's birth could tell you where they'd gone off 16 years later. Bobby's smile was getting more and more forced. "Answer the gentleman," he said again after several more minutes had passed. "Come on. Let us have our money's worth," the doctor told him. "Can't calculate the movements of the heavens in 2 minutes, you know." Doctor just burned him. The girl looked grateful and began at scribbling down a few more sums. Suddenly Rose realised something. The girl was playing for time, of course. She couldn't give Rash's true answers, so she was trying to think of what to say to him. Perhaps the doctor realised this too. He stopped down up to the girl. "Obviously I'm not disarming your abilities, but I expect it's quite hard to work out something like this with so little information. You need to find out more about the boy up to you. And you need to see the place where he disappeared, I bet." She nodded desperately, and her eyes seemed to plead with him. Yes, I need to see the place where he disappeared." "Well, I'm sure your..." Doctor paused. The word distasteful owner won't mind you popping out with us for a bit. Not in the age of such a good cause. But strangely, her owner didn't seem that happy with the idea. "I'm afraid I couldn't consider," he began, but he got no further. Gracious thumped his fist on the table, causing the girl's pen to imp blot ink all over the calculations. "Then let me buy the girl from you," he said. "Don't you understand, man? She's my only hope." Sorry, I didn't do the voice, guys. Then let me buy her from you," he said. "Don't you understand, man? She's my only hope." "What, give up my gold mine? I mean," Blibus said, obscure smile coming back into play. "Give up my sacred duty to protect my charge?" "Oh, we can protect her, no problem," said the doctor bracefully. "I think it sounds like a jolly good deal. All right, Gracious here's a rich man. I'm sure you have no problem coming to arrangement." Blibus shrugged. "It is Quantius coming up all these women, the tourists. They love to hear their fortunes. If I do not have Vanessa, I will lose much money." Rose's toes curled in discomfort as he listened to them discussing the price for a girl. A human being was being bought and sold as if she were a table or a bag of apples, or Operation Comedy's profit margins. Vanessa didn't seem that horrified, though. She seemed happy, eager, unable to believe her luck. Her life here couldn't be so much fun, and she obviously engaged a better time than serving Gracious. Finding the restrictions complete, Gracious, the doctor, and Rose left the apartment with Vanessa in tow. "So what now?" asked Rose. "Just what I said," replied the doctor. "I think it would help us if we went back to Gracious' villa and examined the spot where Otivius was last seen. The invitation's still open, of course." Turned to the old man, who nodded eagerly. Yes. If you think that's the best," he sighed. "I could look in Rome for a year and never find him, even if he is here." "Yeah, it's not as if you had some photos of him you could hand out," said Roosevelt, thinking. The doctor gave her a look. "I mean, something to show people what he looks like," she said hurriedly. Gracious smiled sadly. If you wish to see what my beloved child looks like, well, just wait till we arrive at the villa." Gracious' carriage was waiting outside the city gates. They all climbed in. The doctor indicated by gesture he wanted Rose to stick closely to Vanessa, but she would have done anyway. The girl had hardly said a word since they left the apartment. Rose determined to engage her in conversation. "So, did you come from Rome?" She tried a nice, easy question to start with, but it seemed to alarm Vanessa, who said quiet. She had an argo. How old are you? This time the girl answered. 16? She whispered. And how long you been doing this astrology lark? Again, Vanessa didn't answer. Rose was shocked to see tears beginning to trickle down her cheeks. She impulsively grabbed the girl in a hug. Hey, don't cry. I'm sorry, I won't ask you anything else, not if you don't want me to. The girl had started crying. She couldn't stop. Rose held her. The sobs heaved through her body, rocking her gently, comforting, wondering just what had happened to this girl to make her so very scared. The journey was slow, and Rose thought longingly of trains and cars. Well, she had supposed the horse-drawn, well, actually donkey-drawn carriage was a lot more environmentally friendly, even if it was a long, bumpy ride. She'd been surprised to learn they wouldn't get to the villa that day. They'd have to stay the night at a guest house along the way. She had hoped to at least give her a chance to speak to Vanessa, with no one else looking on, but slaves went in a different part of the building. Rose wondered what the slaves' quarters must be like, considering how grotty the bed she was given was. She spent the night half sleeping, half lying awake, having worrying thoughts about Roman hygiene and potential infestation, trying to tell herself that any inching was entirely in her imagination. They left the next morning when the sun was barely up. It could probably take them the whole day to get to the villa. So Gracious wanted to make an early start. Rose was happy though, if that meant they would be spending another night at the way station. The old man showed interest in breakfasting, but as the sun started to climb in the sky, the doctor jumped off the vehicle and picked up all the early figs from a tree growing wild by the roadside. Oh, it's 1:20. He whispered to Rose as he handed her some fruit. Here, his neighbour, don't worry. I'm picking up all the grass. Gracious was obviously eager to get back and let Vanessa start to track Octavius. Rose felt the girl shiver at that. She was convinced as she could be the Professor had no gifts, no mystical powers, and she wondered what the charming old Roman would do if he discovered he spent all that money on a slave for nothing. For now, though, he seemed sweet-tempered if worried. Sitting over the other side of the carriage, talking quietly to the doctor. Still, Rose began to plan rescue strategies in her head, just in case. Despite Gracia's expectations, Vanessa seemed more cheerful after a night's rest, and even responded hesitantly to some of Rose's remarks about the scenery. Encouraged, Rose pressed on. I'm for Britain. Britannia, she said. You know where the Roman Hadrian built his wall, yeah? Oh, Hadrian's wall meant to keep out of that barbarian, said Vanessa. What, like Celtic Roman fans, said Rose, laughing. Vanessa looked puzzled, but laughed too. Ha ha ha! For a moment, Rose thought she was going to say more, reveal something about herself, but she didn't. It was dusk by the time they had reached the villa, but there was just enough light left for Rose to see what it was like. She had been expecting something resembling a stately home, but was more like a farm, even if it was an incredibly posh one. But there were a number of buildings covered with rather ugly stucco decoration, surrounding courtyard with fountains and fish ponds. There were elaborate mosques and elegant statues. There were fields of crops, an orchard of peaches, almonds bursting with blossom, stables for donkeys, yards for chickens and geese. Not a bad place, this, muttered the doctor as they went inside. A short, dumpy woman came running to meet them. She looked as if her natural state was kindness and jollity. At that moment her face was drawn anxious. Did you find him? She cried, ignoring everyone but Gracious. Gracious shook his head sadly. They introduced the woman as his wife, Marcia, the mother of Tobias. But these good people are here to help, he told her. The slave, he indicated Vanessa, is a prophet, great power. Once you discover more of this, you will find him for us. He paused for a second. The word for Urius. He assured me it'll be ready tomorrow, as promised. Marcia offered them food, but they were eaten on the way, the light now fading rapidly. and the few oil lamps stated not really sufficient illumination. It would seem it was the habit to retire early with the rise of the sun. Tomorrow I will show you my son. Gracious promised as he summoned slaves to show the doctor and Rose to guest rooms. I assure you will prove the answer to my prayers, but Rose, as she tossed and turned in the unfamiliar, yet thankfully clean bed, wasn't sure of that at all. Doctor was already out and about when Rose made her sleepy way downstairs next morning. She had found him in an orchard, sitting beneath a tree, as peach bloom sprinkled his hair like a snowy flower. Way to go for the detective work, she said. Hockey of Pruitt could solve any case by just sitting back and thinking, he told her. You have a twirly moustache, she laughed. Go with the sideburns, that would. I expect it would make me look even more sophisticated, he said, hauntingly. Rose grinned. Go on then. Grow a twirly moustache, I dare you. Fine, he said, stretching his upper lip. And grow one now, look. She peered closely, pretending to believe him, but collapsing a gill after a moment, and the doctor joined her. Maybe not, he said. So what's the plan? Rose asked. After they'd both calmed down. Gracious is preparing something, Doctor told her. We're here to meet them in half an hour. They talked in something in peculiar until a slave became to fetch them. He led them to a grove near the field's entrance. Proud peacocks strode across the grass through the neat ordered flower beds. The water trickled from the moths of stone, nymphs, and the fawns into a little pond. The only distant note was struck by a human being, a tall, thick-set, scarly man, alien in his environment of richness and beauty. He was slumped against the base of a statue. At least Rose assumed it was a statue, as she tripped over it. Gracious, Mercer, and Vanessa were approaching the grave from a different direction, and the unpleasant-looking man struggled to his feet as he saw them arrive. Gracious, my dear fellow. I trust all is prepared for the travelling. The man nodded curtly. Excellent! Gracious turned to Doctor and Rose. Rose noticed that Vanessa pretty much didn't exist in his eyes, unless he was actually talking about her, or to her. This is Alcius Fascius Urius. He's a local lad, but is fast talking of the Emperor. I think I may see with little fear of contradiction that he is one of the greatest sculptors of our day. He really undertakes commissions of private citizens, so I was greatly honored when he agreed to create a work for me to celebrate my beloved son. The money you offered I could hardly refuse, said the man. Gracious smile that reminded Rose of Vanessa's former owner, Balbius. Gracious gave a sad chuckle. It is true that the advantage of being a very rich man is that things can sometimes be bought which are not normally for sale. And yet I cannot buy one thing I desire above all else, the return of my son. Who never talks about his son? He stepped forward and took hold of the cloth, covering the statue. Still, it is my hope that this will bring us closer to the happy event. With a sharp flick of his wrist, the sheet fell away and the statue was revealed. It was a young boy, striking a noble pose. The statue was of gleaming white marble, but his lips, eyes, and hair and nose had been painted in bright colours. Rose considered that a bit tasteless personally. Only one step away from drawing on a moustache and glasses and a felt tip. Gracious sighed heavily. The day was supposed to be a celebration, he turned to Doctor and Rose. Delibria, the day on which my son Toga Fellows became a man in the eyes of the world. She gestured to Stoneboy. This was to commemorate that precious day. But at last, made us in our plight. This is but she said, solving into tears. And figured herself the statue, hugging its knees, slightly as low to help stop her son leaving. And now you'll be able to find him. And guys, that's the end of chapter 2. Hopefully you enjoyed chapter 2, guys. What's gonna happen next? It's so tense, guys. Find it next stream. Bye, John. Bye, Peter. Bye, anyone else watching.